Back to President Trump, who seems to be spoiling for a fight with Congress over funding a border wall with Mexico. That battle will be anything but easy because of the looming deadline to avert a U.S. debt default. It's one of the top stories on the Bloomberg right now, and our senior national political reporter Jennifer Jacobs has more from the White House. Great to have you on the show. Oh, the view's been slightly spoiled in the last few moments by an enormous digger, but we'll try and avoid that. Talk to me about these two things, because they are separate and we tend to group them together, and there is the job of getting the spending bill done. There's also the job of raising the debt ceiling here. But I want to ask you what the likelihood is that those two things are tied together in order to get them to the president's desk.
It's a possibility. And you've got some of Trump's advisors saying, listen, this is something that you really need to go to the mat on. It's worth possibly shutting down the U.S. government, the federal government, in order to have leverage to get those lawmakers to give him funding on paying for the wall. They think that that's so important to some of his core voters. As we all know, he's been alienating some of corporate America, some of the GOP establishment, and building that wall is something that he said every single campaign rally. I can't think of a campaign rally, and I went to dozens of them, where he didn't talk about building that wall and promising his voters that. And so one of his strategists, Steve Bannon, before he left last week said, look, even if you have to shut down the government, we have to get that money from Congress. So he's willing to go to the mat on it. Pollsters show that this is really important to those voters. They give him some wiggle room, obviously, on many various topics. But on this particular one, Trump has campaigned on being a builder. He's this deal maker, and if he can't get this wall done, they're worried that it would really damage his credibility. He's got a GOP Congress. He's a Republican. He promised this wall. He's got to go to the mat for this funding.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And as you say, it kind of multiplies the risks and the consequences here of a standoff if these two things are tied together. But as you pointed out here as well, if we separate out the funding for the Mexican war, you can basically count the Democrats out if it's involved. What kind of debt bill can be achieved here if we only have Republican votes?
You know what? The Democrats are not going to help at all. So that's what they're going to have to count on. And you had Paul Ryan yesterday saying we're definitely not, well, he didn't say definitely, he said we do not want to shut down the government. That's not necessary to do this. You had Jeff Flake saying bad idea. So you don't have Republicans, all Republicans in line with the president, but that's who he's going to have to count on to get this done. I don't see Democrats, after everything that's happening, doing anything to lift a finger to help the president at this point.